This is the first full day in the hospital. I got here last night. I started antibiotics probably 8 o'clock last night. It's about 10 o'clock in the morning the next day, so 12 hours later. And right now it feels like I'm worse than I was when I got here. Making this little video here to kind of show what red man's syndrome is. This is the reaction to the initial doses of vancomycin. You can see I've got red, it's flush red, and my scalp is red here. Comes down here, and it's red almost as everywhere your bust would be, like I busted a head. And the sensation of this flushed skin is an intense itch, and almost like a burning, and it's extremely uncomfortable. They pre-med with Benadryl, but as the symptoms taper off, I'll switch to Atarax. It's a weaker sort of. There's my scar from when I had lymphoma. Took that out there. So yeah, this is kind of what some of the effects of red man syndrome are. You can see it also the itch sensation becomes more intense if you do scratch it. So you have to be really conscientious of not trying to scratch it and not trying to touch it, because it'll just get worse. So that's just sort of some of the effects of red man syndrome. So I just got my pick in right here. Pick crew came and did it right in the room, like they always do, and did such a good job. My IV right there, that'll come out. Don't need that anymore. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about why I get a pick every time. You can probably see just the number of scars I have. There's less over here, quite a bit less over here than there is on this one. Just looks like little dots, little white dots. I think if I counted them, there'd be somewhere like 30 of them, and that's every time I had a pick put in. I just want to talk a little bit about why I choose not to get a port and to stick with the pick. So I'm sure people with CF understand that with the physical milestones, with the progression with CF, there's also mental milestones. And the mental game is huge. You know, it takes a lot to get up every day and do what I do. And a big part of that is being mentally strong, believing that I'm physically strong, believing that I can beat this. And there's been a couple things like the port, and maybe there's been briefly some talk about oxygen at night. And, you know, while they may be slightly beneficial in some ways, the mental impact on me would exact too high of a cost. It would be a psychological defeat to accept. I know that a big part of this in dealing with CF is having to accept what comes. But I've lived a lot of my life fighting that, believing I am stronger, believing I am immortal. So coming to the hospital to get IV medicine is only a small part of how I fight cystic fibrosis. A big part of how I fight cystic fibrosis is something that I do every single day. I run. I run outside in anything, rain, snow, sub-degree weather. I actually prefer extremely cold, below zero weather. Some of my absolute favorite running experiences have been in 16 degree below zero, running out there when there's absolutely not another soul out there. And it's quite the feeling of having conquered something. When you're out there and you've got layers on, you're 2 miles into a run and nobody else is outside, and you feel comfortable and warm because you've already worked yourself up, and you get the sense that you've conquered something, that you're at home in this environment, the environment that no one in their right mind would be in for more than an hour. And that's how long I usually run, an hour, hour plus, every single day. So I'm getting ready to do that right now. Yes, even in the hospital. So got my running shoes. It's been wet here in Iowa. I mean, it's been raining ridiculously. I mean, it's been kind of crazy. So I'm going to put this phone down and keep talking to you. And I'm going to go ahead and get ready. So it was 66 degrees outside. It's a little wet. So I've got some semi-waterproof shoes, leather, no air holes. So that's a plus. 66 degree weather is t-shirt and shorts to me. So I'm going to go do that. I'll meet you outside. Okay, now that we're a good distance, I'm about to get on my running path and start my work. I've got a path here that I run, different paths for different distances. So here we go. This is what I do. About a half mile into the run here, it's starting to sprinkle. Just a little bit. I've had to cough a few times already. Stop and cough. I know. That's reality. Coughing that stuff up and getting it out. That's why I'm out here. Airway clearance means cleaner lungs. Less junk in there that can get infected. And more airway space. Scrape myself up, keep going. Kind of a rough run. You know, it is my first full day at the hospital from this exacerbation. Definitely not the worst I've ever been. I'm definitely not there. Definitely a lot of tightness. Kind of feels like a stack of bricks on my chest. not letting me breathe, coupled with the increased congestion, a lot of gunk in there, trying to get that out. It's hard when you can't take full breaths. I'm 45 minutes in. I've maybe done 2 miles, so that tells you how much I've had to stop and cough. I showed you a little bit of that, but man, there's so much gunk in there. Probably 10 times I've had to do that, and I'll stop for about a minute just to cough and get it out. About a mile out from the hospital, and I'm feeling it. The effects of vancomycin weaken you. I got that fever. It's 99.9, so about 100 fever. Just another day at the office, basically. I'm gonna get back to it and give you a heads up when I get back to the hospital. I did my run. That was a little bit ago. It's like mid-afternoon now. Did my first run this morning. I went a total of about 2.5 miles, maybe 3. And of that, I probably actually ran 1.5 miles to 2. So I've got more running to do. So I'll get back out there again yet today. I'm doing vancomycin right now, and I get unhooked from that a little after 5. They're running it over 2 hours so that I don't have quite the effects of red man syndrome. So I'll get back out and I'll try to do another 3 miles today to get that clearance. Had PFTs. Not great. I mean, mid-October is my worst time. And, I don't feel good. And I'm on Vanco. I didn't sleep very well last night because 2 o'clock in the morning, 4 o'clock in the morning is when they decided to, come in and do blood work, poke, take blood, 2 o'clock and 4 o'clock in the morning. So, not a great night's sleep. This is about the time I got here yesterday, maybe it was about 5-ish yesterday, so I haven't quite been in the hospital for 24 hours. I started my antibiotics late last night, so I haven't really actually been on IV antibiotics for a whole day yet. They usually do bounce back pretty quick. I think aggressive airway clearance in the form of running a long time and a long distance to get that clearance is key in getting those numbers, those PFTs, back up as quick as possible. Now, the numbers are disappointing. So, mid-30s is my FEV1, which is horrible for me. Just horrible. I haven't really been able to get them much higher than 50 in the last year. So, we'll see if I can't bounce them back up, to 50 here. That seems to be where I've been for a while. Get them bounced back up as quick as I can and as high as I can. Now, I don't ever really get to see my numbers when I'm doing well. And so it's hard not to feel bad about those numbers, but I don't ever really get to see my PFT numbers when I'm doing well. Because here's the deal, I come in only when I'm exacerbating. Only when I'm not feeling good I come in. They do clinics where I would come in for checkups, but it always falls on when I would come in anyway, which seems to be about every 3 months. Every 3 months for hospitalization, and it's usually every 3 months that you would come in for a clinic. Because they just kind of fall in the same sort of time frame. What happens is I'm coming up to clinic like this time. It was going to be like October 15th or something like that. It's coming up to clinic, and I know that in clinic what they were going to do is do PFT and say, oh, you got to stay because they're not great. What I do is I just preemptively call and say, hey, do you got a bed? Let me get in. Try to make it work with my schedule and my family's schedule the best as possible. So that's what we do. So, never get to see those numbers when they're good. It might be beneficial for me to see them, but the fact remains I never do. And when it's looked at on the chart, for instance, the data that they keep, you always see the dots on my declines. So I don't get to see how high I get. And I'm telling you what, I get to feeling pretty good in between, hospitalizations and antibiotics, to the point where I'm running my 6 miles almost, no problem, not stopping. Running my boy to school and back, and not having to stop, not having to cough, not having to breathe heavy while I'm just got my hands on my knees. So it'd be interesting to see what those numbers would be like when I am feeling good. But right now I just get to see them when they're bad. And right now they are particularly bad. Not to say I can't bounce them back up, which is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get back out there tonight. I'm going to work hard at it. Alright, I'll give you a heads up when I do that. This is my second run today. I'm doing a lot better than I did the first time. Control the breathing is really important.